description of what the cards are showing. Tonight, something genuinely shifts, not gradually, not gently, not in a way you will be able to explain away or rationalize after the fact. In a way that is going to be completely unmistakable and undeniable. And I feel like for many of you watching this, you already sense something is very close. Something has been building just beneath the surface of your life for longer than you would be comfortable admitting out loud. A pressure, a growing tension and energy that has been quietly accumulating and has not yet found its release point. Tonite is the release, and what releases is going to carry a significance that you will still be feeling years from now. Let's pull and see exactly what the cards are showing. First card, the Tower. And when the Tower comes out in this position, in a reading with this specific title, I want to be very precise about what I mean and what I do not mean. The Tower is not simply a destruction card. Not in the way people instinctively fear when they see it. The Tower is specifically the card of what cannot be sustained finally and necessarily falling, of something constructed on a hollow or false foundation, something that was never designed to hold the weight it was asked to carry, finally giving way. And for most of you watching this, what is falling is not your life itself. What is falling is the specific version of your life that you settled for, the version you built when you did not yet know that you were allowed to want more than what you had. The version you maintained out of habit, out of a kind of protective fear, out of the belief that this was probably as good as it was realistically going to get. And I feel like there is something in your world right now, maybe one specific thing, maybe several things, that has reached its natural point of collapse. Not because you did anything wrong or failed, because you genuinely outgrew it, and the wheel moved. The Wheel of Fortune has a very specific and important relationship with the Tower. When the wheel turns and what you have built is no longer compatible with the direction you are being taken, the structure has to come down, and that is precisely what is happening right now. Tonite, something goes that has needed to go for a long time, and what arrives in its place is something that actually fits specifically and completely who you have genuinely become in this time. Second card. Ace of Wands. And the Ace of Wands landing directly after the Tower is one of the most powerful card combinations I could see in a reading about transformation, because the Tower is the clearing, and the Ace of Wands is the first new thing. The Ace of Wands is a beginning that does not ask permission from anyone. It does not wait for you to feel ready or prepared. It does not arrive quietly and wait politely to be let in. It arrives as a charge, a momentum, an electric and kinetic energy that you feel specifically in your chest before you can name what it actually is. And I feel like that specific and electric energy is genuinely arriving for you right now, tonight. Something you have been trying to make happen, something you have been waiting on with diminishing patience, something that has been sitting right at the edge of possibility for longer than feels reasonable, is about to ignite. Not smolder, not build slowly over weeks, not warm up carefully over time. Ignite fully and immediately. The Ace of Wands genuinely has no interest in slow or gradual builds. It is a beginning that always comes in at full and immediate intensity, and I feel like what ignites for you tonight is going to set a direction that changes the trajectory of the next full year of your life. Last card for this part, Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune closing this section is the card that ties everything in this reading together. Because the wheel is saying something very specific. This was always coming. This was always going to be the night that it happened. This was not manufactured or constructed. This was not coincidence or luck. This was a long cycle completing, a season reaching its necessary end, a new and significant chapter arriving, because the timing has finally and completely and irrevocably come together. The wheel does not turn for people who have not done the necessary work. It turns for people who have been building in the background, enduring without much external recognition, growing in ways that have not yet been seen or acknowledged by the world around them. And I feel like that is exactly what you have been doing throughout this period. And the wheel has registered every single bit of what you have quietly put in. And tonight it answers. Now we talk about your side of this, because before we get into the changes that are arriving, I want to acknowledge something you did not get here without cost. There is a version of you that existed before this period, before whatever season you have been moving through, that was lighter, that moved through things with less weight on it. And somewhere along the way, in the process of enduring what you have been enduring, you picked up a heaviness that was never supposed to be permanent, a vigilance, a low-grade readiness for things to go wrong, a habit of bracing that became so familiar you stopped noticing it was there. And I feel like you have been carrying that for a while, without necessarily naming it, without asking for anyone to notice. Because that is what you do. You hold it, you move forward, you figure it out, and you do it without complaint, without fanfare, without asking for acknowledgement. But the cards are pointing to something very specific right now. First card, Four of Swords, and the Four of Swords in this position is immediately showing me exhaustion, not the kind that collapses publicly. Not dramatic, not the theatrical kind, not the kind of tired that announces itself, the kind of tired that accumulates slowly over a sustained period of pushing through, the kind that lives in the body more than the mind, the kind that you only fully feel when something finally and clearly gives you permission to put it down. And I feel like part of what is specifically happening tonight is that permission arriving. Part of what the shift brings is a real release of the effort it has taken to hold your life in place while something was actively working against it. And I feel like you do not yet know how tired you have been. Because you have been so focused on the next thing, the next necessary step, the next move, that you have not had real space to register the full weight of what you have been carrying. Tonite genuinely changes that. Something structural is shifting, and when the weight lifts, it is going to feel different than you expected, not relief in the soft sense, not a vague feeling of things maybe getting better, an actual physical bodily lightness, like something your body has been doing involuntarily for a long time simply stops, and the breath you finally take in that moment is going to feel completely different. Second card, Temperance. And Temperance landing here is significant because Temperance is specifically the card of someone who has been doing something very precise and demanding, mixing opposing energies together without letting either one spill, holding real and ongoing tension without breaking, maintaining a careful balance in a situation that kept actively threatening to tip. And I feel like that is precisely the kind of internal management you have been doing. You have been holding genuine hope and real doubt at the exact same time, holding patience in one hand and very real frustration in the other, holding the deep desire for things to change directly alongside the quiet fear that they might not. And that kind of internal management is exhausting in a way that most people around you would not fully understand because it leaves no visible marks. Because from the outside, you look entirely fine. You have consistently been fine, but Temperance is showing me the constant calibration it has taken to stay that way. The deliberate, continuous, invisible work of keeping yourself regulated while the circumstances around you have not been. And that work has been real. Every bit of it has been real. And it deserves to be clearly named last card, the Hermit. And the Hermit is specifically the card of the period you have been inside. A period of deep inner work, of necessary and sometimes lonely solitude, of building something internally that the outside world has not yet been able to see or validate. And I feel like this card is showing me that much of what has genuinely happened for you during this time has happened very quietly. Inside, in the interior of your private experience. Not publicly, not in any visible way, not in ways that other people around you could track or applaud, but real work has been happening, significant and lasting work, real, meaningful growth. Real clarification about who you are and what you actually want arrived at specifically through the process of being pushed deeply into yourself by circumstances that were genuinely not easy. And the Hermit is the card that says that kind of private, quiet inner work is never lost. It does not disappear or become irrelevant when the season finally changes. It becomes the foundation for what comes next. And the change that is arriving tonight is landing directly on a foundation you have been quietly and privately building. And that solid foundation is precisely why what is coming is going to actually hold. Not just feel good for a moment and fade, not a temporary lift that fades actually whole. Now, we pull for the changes themselves because I want to get specific, because general energy talk is not what this reading is about. Not energy, not general shifts, not vague improvement. What what the cards are actually showing me about what changes tonight and what arrives next. First card, the World, and the World landing in this position is one of the most complete and significant cards in this deck, because the World is not a card about something beginning. It is a card about something finishing, about a long arc, something that has required a great deal of you across a significant stretch of time, arriving at its final point. And I feel like there is something in your life right now that you have been working toward or working through or both that is reaching completion. Not winding down, not fading. Completion is whole. It lands with a finality that is not sad but definitive, and there is a very specific difference between those two things. And the World is the card of something arriving at wholeness, of the last piece dropping into place, of a chapter closing not because it was abandoned, but because it ran its full and necessary course. That is a completion worth acknowledging. And I feel like for many of you watching this, you have been inside that chapter for longer than you originally expected. Much longer in some cases, you may have thought it would finish sooner. You may have had a timeline in your mind that the reality of the thing did not honor, that gap matters, and that gap between the expected ending and the actual ending has cost you something. Energy, patience, certainty. All of that is seen and specifically acknowledged by this card. But the World is saying the ending is here, not approaching, not soon, here, now. And what comes on the other side of this completion is not a blank page. It is a page that is already beginning to fill. And what fills it is not random. What fills it is the direct consequence of everything you have been doing that matters. Second card, Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles arriving in this position is showing me something very specific about how the changes come in. Because the Knight of Pentacles is not a card of sudden windfall or overnight transformation. This knight moves deliberately, steadily. It does not lurch or overcorrect with method, with preparation, with the kind of steady forward energy that cannot be stopped because it does not overextend itself. And I feel like that is showing me the quality of what is arriving for you, not a flash. This is not accidental momentum, a real building, compounding momentum, the kind that builds and does not reverse. Something that has been building with intention and is now converting into visible, tangible forward motion. And I want to name something specific about the Knight of Pentacles that matters in this reading. This knight finishes what it starts. Always, it does not abandon the work halfway through because the conditions became difficult. And I feel like that is describing you exactly. You have been the Knight of Pentacles in this situation, and that is genuinely not a small thing. You did not leave. You did not abandon the work when it would have been reasonable to do so. And the card is saying that the quality of what arrives now is directly related to the quality of what you put in during the difficult parts. The returns are proportional to the endurance. This has always been how it works. It has never once not been how it works. And your endurance has been significant. Last card, Three of Wands. And the Three of Wands is a card I specifically love in a reading about change and expansion. Because the Three of Wands is the card of someone standing on high ground and watching something they set in motion coming back toward them. Ships returning, things sent out now, coming back with interest. Plans arriving. Something that was sent out returning with more than it left with. And I feel like this card is pointing to at least one thing you initiated, one thing you put energy into, one thing you sent forward with hope during a period when the return was not guaranteed. That is now coming back. I want you to think about what that thing is, and I want to be very specific. This return is not small. I want that to land. Sit with that. The Three of Wands is an expansive card. It is the card of scope widening, of the view from your current position becoming significantly broader than it was, of the next chapter being larger in its reach and scale than the chapter you are completing. And I feel like that expansion is one of the most important things happening in this reading. Whatever was contained, whatever was compressed or reduced, whatever was held in a smaller shape than it deserved to occupy is about to have room. And tonight is when the room begins to open, and what enters that room belongs entirely to you. And once it starts opening, it does not close again. Now we get into specifics, because the previous parts were about what is happening and why. This part is specifically about where it actually lands, what changes first, what moves earliest, what you are going to feel in the most tangible areas of your life. Let's pull. And these cards are coming out with real clarity. First card, Eight of Pentacles. And the Eight of Pentacles landing first in this position is showing me something direct and very specific. Whatever skill, craft, work, or discipline you have been quietly developing, the recognition for it is now arriving. Not eventually, not after more time passes, now. The Eight of Pentacles is the card of mastery being built through repetition. Of someone who kept showing up and kept refining, even during periods when the external validation was not matching the internal effort. And I feel like that is a very accurate and specific description of your recent past. You have been doing the work consistently and quietly. You have been developing something, building something, becoming more capable in something during a long period where the returns were simply not visible. And the Eight of Pentacles is the card that says that particular period is over. The work is about to be seen finally. Not seen by everyone, not seen by the wrong people, not in a performative or surface level way. Seen by the people and circumstances that can actually do something meaningful with what they observe. That distinction matters enormously, and I feel like what changes in the area of your work, your output, your craft, whatever it is you have been quietly building is going to feel like a door opening that you are not sure was even still in the wall. Something that felt completely sealed is going to become accessible. And the access is not incidental. It is genuinely not luck. It is the direct result of what you have been doing consistently and without external reward. Second card, Five of Cups reversed. And the Five of Cups reversed in this position is one of the most specific and meaningful cards I could pull for what is shifting in your emotional and personal world. Because the Five of Cups reversed is the card of someone who has been in a period of grief or real loss or a sustained period of focusing on what was missing, what did not work, what was taken or withheld, and is now beginning to turn around, beginning to look at what is still there. And I feel like this card is pointing to something that has been sitting in your field of vision this whole time, something genuinely real and available that your necessary focus on the difficult parts of this season has made harder for you to fully see. But the reversal of the Five of Cups is not subtle. It does not mean maybe or eventually. It means the turning has already begun. It is already in motion, right now. And I feel like this card is speaking very specifically to your emotional life right now. Something you had partially written off, something you had quietly resigned yourself to losing or simply not having is not nearly as gone as you have come to believe. And this reversal is also showing me an opening in your personal relationships, a real, genuine thaw. A conversation that genuinely could not happen before that is now completely possible. A door that was firmly closed that is simply no longer locked. And I feel like you are going to notice it in the way this person meets your energy differently, or in the way a situation that felt completely fixed begins to feel like it has real movement again. Third card, the Magician, and the Magician in this position is one of the most activating and direct cards in this entire deck. Because the Magician is the card of someone who has everything they need already in front of them. Every resource, every real ability, every specific element required to build what they are genuinely trying to build. And the only thing this card asks is for you to actually pick it up and use it. This is not a card about waiting patiently for the right conditions, and it is not a card about needing something external that has not yet arrived. The Magician says the conditions are already met, the materials are already on the table, and what shifts tonight is your relationship to your own capability, your ability to recognize and accept that you have been more prepared for this than you knew, more resourced, more skilled, more precisely positioned than you gave yourself credit for during the entire period when everything felt stuck and sealed. And I feel like the Magician is pointing very specifically to a concrete action that becomes available and clearly visible to you tonight. Something you can actually do starting now, something in the direction of the thing you want most right now. And I feel like the window for that action is going to be clearer than it has been in a very long time. This part is about what is running beneath all of it, because the changes that are arriving tonight are not random. They are not simply the universe being generous. There is a specific reason this is happening now, in this particular season, and not before. And the cards are showing me something I want to name very directly, because this is the part of the reading that explains why. Let's pull. First card, the High Priestess. And the High Priestess appearing here is telling me something very significant about what has been happening to you during this particular period. Because the High Priestess is the card of interior knowing, of wisdom that lives below the level of what can be spoken or explained, of a knowledge of how things actually are that is not derived from external information, but from something deeper, more intrinsic, more like a listening than a learning. And I feel like you have been living in that kind of knowing during this season. You have known things before they were provable, before they were visible. Not in the way of verifiable facts, not in the way of certainty, but in the specific and quieter way of sensing. You have sensed what was genuinely true before it fully revealed itself. You have felt the actual direction of things before it was confirmed by anything visible or external. And I want to name something that the High Priestess is saying very specifically to you in this position. The reason tonight's changes are arriving is partly because you have been doing something that is very hard to do. You have been trusting your own interior, even when what you sensed was not being validated by what you could see, even when the outer circumstances were contradicting what you felt to be true. You kept the thread. Through everything that tried to make you doubt it, you did not let go of what you knew internally just because the external world was not confirming it. And the High Priestess is the card that says that kind of fidelity to your own inner knowing is precisely what opens the door. Not effort alone, not timing alone. Fidelity, the specific and sustained fidelity to what you genuinely knew beneath the noise. Second card, Six of Wands. And the Six of Wands arriving in this position is one of the most direct recognition cards in this deck. This is the card of public acknowledgement, of your name being said in rooms you are not currently present in, of your work, your presence, your specific output reaching people and places and conversations that you did not personally introduce it to. And I feel like this card is pointing to something specific that is about to happen in your public or professional world that is going to feel distinctly different from anything you have experienced before. Not just praise from people who already know you, not just encouragement from familiar voices, recognition that arrives with genuine and real momentum already behind it. The kind that builds on itself. The kind that changes your position in a way that is genuinely and lastingly not temporary. And I also feel the Six of Wands speaking very directly to your self-perception right now. Because a significant part of what tonight changes is not just how others see you. There is a version of you that has been operating from a considerably smaller self-concept than the actual reality of who you are warrants. A version that has been hedging, holding back, underestimating the reach and resonance of what you bring. And the Six of Wands is the card that begins to shift that self-concept. Not with outside validation alone, but with a genuine internal upgrade, a recognition of your own genuine weight and substance. Your own earned and real authority. Last card, Nine of Cups. And the Nine of Cups is the wish card. This is important to name. It is the card of something you have been carrying in the private interior of your wanting, something you have probably stopped saying out loud because the active longing for it became too expensive to maintain consistently arriving. And I feel like this card is speaking to something very specific. There is a desire you have been living with that you have in some quiet corner of yourself stopped fully believing in, not abandoned, but lowered. The volume turned down on it deliberately, the hope reduced to a kind of distant background note that you have learned to live alongside without expecting it to resolve. And the Nine of Cups is the card that says it resolves, not eventually in this cycle, in the period that begins tonight. And I want you to hear that not as reassurance, not as comfort language, as a specific and direct statement from the cards. What you have been hoping for, in the quietest and most honest place in yourself, is arriving. And it is arriving in a form that is real, not symbolic, not partial, not a version of it that requires further translation, the actual thing. And tonight is specifically when the conditions for that arrival fully, and finally lock into place. We are in the final part of this reading now, and I want to close it the way the energy of this reading deserves. Not by summarizing or recapping what the cards said, but by speaking directly to what comes immediately after tonight. First card for the close. The Sunday, and the Sunday coming out in this position is one of the most direct and affirming cards I could pull to close a reading like this. Because the Sunday is specifically the card of clarity arriving after a period of confusion, of genuine visibility after a long period of being unseen or unacknowledged, of the real warmth that returns after a season of cold. And I feel like that is precisely where you are arriving, not where you will eventually be. Not the destination that is still 3 chapters away, where you are arriving now in the immediate period following tonight. The Sunday is also very specifically a card of joy, not the polished or curated or public-facing kind, the private, interior, genuinely unexpected kind. The kind that catches you off guard because you had partially stopped expecting it, and I feel like that moment of unexpected joy is very close for you. A moment in the very near future where something in your life feels genuinely and fully good. Not complicated, not bittersweet, not good in the way that things are good while still carrying weight. Good in the way that something you have been working toward and waiting on and enduring for finally arrives, and you are actually there to receive it. And I feel like you are ready to receive it, more ready than you know. And I feel like that moment is genuinely very close. The Sunday does not herald things that are coming in distant cycles. It specifically heralds what is immediately ahead. And what is immediately ahead for you is a sustained period of genuine warmth and visible progress. A period where what you have been quietly doing becomes loudly and undeniably evident. Second card, 4 of Wands. And the 4 of Wands in this position is exactly the card I want to see closing a reading about massive and life-changing shifts. Because the 4 of Wands is specifically the card of celebration, of genuine arrival, of the moment after the journey when you finally set down what you were carrying and look around at where you have arrived and recognize that you are somewhere worth being. And I feel like this card is showing me a very specific near-term moment of real recognition for you. Something arrives, something finally completes, something that has been long in motion reaches its destination. And there is a moment where you genuinely and fully feel it. Not just intellectually, not just as a thought about a positive development in your chest, in your body, as a deeply felt sense of arrival, of having crossed from one side of a threshold to another. And I also feel the 4 of Wands pointing specifically to a gathering energy, to the people who are going to be part of what you are building coming into clearer view. The collaborators, the supporters, the specific individuals whose presence in your orbit is about to become more active and more meaningful. This is not a card of solitary success. The chapter you are entering is not one you carry alone. It is a card of collective arrival. And I feel like part of what tonight initiates is a new quality of connection, not just with opportunities, but with the people who belong in the chapter you are entering, the ones who have been finding their way toward you. Last card, the Star, and the Star closing this reading is the card I most wanted to see here. Because the Star, after everything this reading has shown, is the card that says the long period of uncertainty is ending, not diminishing. Ending the thing you were not sure of, the thing you held in question, the version of the future you hoped for but could not fully confirm, is resolving into clarity, into genuine and lasting light. Into a shape you can finally see and inhabit and build from. And I want to say something to you directly before I close this. You have been through something real during this period. The exhaustion was real, the patience it required was real. The invisible work you did, the internal calibration, the sustained fidelity to what you knew when nothing outside was confirming it, was genuinely and completely real, and none of it was wasted, not a single day of it. The Wheel, the Tower, the World, the Knight of Pentacles, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Sunday, the 4 of Wands, and the Star are all pointing at the same thing, all of them. In one direction, the season you have been in is ending tonight. And the season that is beginning is genuinely, specifically, and completely different. It is bigger. It is clearer. It is more aligned with who you actually are and what you are actually capable of, and it begins right now, not tomorrow, not after one more thing resolves, right now, tonight. So take a breath, and let tonight be the night you have been building toward. But by speaking directly to what comes immediately after tonight, first card for the close, the Sunday, and the Sunday coming out in this position is one of the most direct and affirming cards I could pull to close a reading like this. Because the Sunday is specifically the card of clarity arriving after a period of confusion, of genuine visibility after a long period of being unseen or unacknowledged, of the real warmth that returns after a season of cold. And I feel like that is precisely where you are arriving, not where you will eventually be. Not the destination that is still 3 chapters away, where you are arriving now in the immediate period following tonight. The Sunday is also very specifically a card of joy, not the polished or curated or public-facing kind, the private, interior, genuinely unexpected kind. The kind that catches you off guard because you had partially stopped expecting it, and I feel like that moment of unexpected joy is very close for you. A moment in the very near future where something in your life feels genuinely and fully good. Not complicated, not bittersweet, not good in the way that things are good while still carrying weight. Good in the way that something you have been working toward and waiting on and enduring for finally arrives, and you are actually there to receive it. And I feel like you are ready to receive it, more ready than you know. And I feel like that moment is genuinely very close. The Sunday does not herald things that are coming in distant cycles. It specifically heralds what is immediately ahead. And what is immediately ahead for you is a sustained period of genuine warmth and visible progress. A period where what you have been quietly doing becomes loudly and